According to the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, some categories of people have been exempted from fasting: the aged, the sick, the travelers, mentally impaired, and of course, some set of women: the pregnant women, menstruating women, lactating mothers, and of course, those with postnatal bleeding. However, we have gotten questions from our patients, especially the sick ones, those who have non-communicable diseases, if they can fast during the month of Ramadan. Well, I come with good news. The good news is yes, you can fast with some tips and procedures I am going to be sharing in this video. Hi guys, it's your girl Carrie and you are welcome to my Ramadan Nutri series. Based on my experience in the hospital, there are two types of patients. We have the compliant ones and we have the non-compliant ones. If you are the non-compliant ones, that is those who do not comply with what the doctors have said, you do not come back for follow-up, you do not take your medications as you are supposed to have been taking it, thereby you do not have good control of your blood glucose level. This video, this tips, these procedures I am going to be sharing are not meant for you. And no, you are not permitted to fast so as not to complicate your health status. However, if you are the compliant one, you are welcome and come, let's share what I have with you and how you can fast without complications in the month of Ramadan. Number one tip: as a diabetic, if you want to fast, the first thing you have to do is consult your medical doctor or your physician for two reasons. They need to check if you are not at risk of hypoglycemia or hyperglycemia in the course of your fasting. If you are the type that have ketoacidosis in your history or you have a bad history of HbA1c or type 1 diabetes mellitus, you should need to consult your medical doctor or your physician before you can proceed with fasting. The other reason why you need to consult your doctor is so as for them to see if there is a need to review your medications. Perhaps there is a need to review your dosages or the prescriptions in general. So before you can begin your fasting in the month of Ramadan as a diabetic, you have to consult your medical doctor. The second tip is that you need to be sure of your blood glucose level. You need to monitor it every time, at least between 2 to 4 hours when you're fasting in the month of Ramadan. And when it is a time for you to break your fast, if you have, number one, if your blood glucose level is below 70 milligram per dl, you need to break your fast. And on the other hand, if it is too high, if it is, for me, I would say if it is already around 150, 200 to 300 milligram per dl, you should break your fast. It means something is wrong and you should not continue so as not to jeopardize your fasting and your health. Remember, fasting is not compulsory for you, but you want to fast. That is why I am giving and sharing this tip for you. It is not compulsory. And you know, if you are not going to fast with this condition, diabetes, it means you have to either do the quarter or you do the fidya, where you have to seek fasting presence. The third tip I'm going to be sharing for diabetics on how to fast effectively, efficiently, without complicating their health status in the month of Ramadan is to ensure proper hydration and nutrition during the month of Ramadan. I know you must be going through your mind that how do I ensure proper nutrition and hydration when I can't even eat nor drink during the fasting hours in the month of Ramadan? Well, it's simple. During your sahur and your iftar, there are three things you must prioritize. Number one, foods that have low glycemic index. What are foods that have low glycemic index? Foods that have low glycemic index are foods that do not have their energy, glucose, or sugar in them released into the bloodstream at a quicker rate. They are absorbed gradually and slowly, such that cases of hypoglycemia do not occur when you are fasting after consuming this food, compared to foods that have high glycemic index. What are the examples of foods that have low glycemic index? We have the whole grains like rice, brown rice. When I'm talking about rice now, I'm talking about brown rice, basmati rice, ofada rice, common to we Nigerians, wheat, millet, sorghum, barley, and so many other whole grains that you can think about. Also, we have the legumes like the beans and the lentils. These are examples of foods that have low glycemic index that you should prioritize. Ensure they are in your plate. They are compulsory. They must be in your plate if you want to fast, and ensure that you are properly nourished as a diabetic in the month of Ramadan. Number two, what do you eat as a diabetic? How do you portion your food? How do you dish your food? Does your food include the elder plate guidelines that are for diabetes? What is a healthy plate guideline? That means as a diabetic, if you want to eat in the month of Ramadan and even beyond the month of Ramadan, you must ensure that half of your plate is filled with veggies. Yes, vegetables. When we talk vegetables in Nigeria, the first thing that comes to our head is a ewedu or okra. Yes, they are indeed vegetables. And yes, when you are eating these foods, they must fill up half of your plate. But just to avoid you eating the same foods constantly and every day, you can also include slices of cabbage and cucumber and carrots, lettuce, broccoli as your side dish when you are eating. So that means these vegetables must fill like half of your plate when you are eating. Also, one quarter of your plate must be filled with lean proteins. When we are talking lean proteins, we are talking about fish and poultry. Make sure that those are the lean proteins you are consuming as a diabetic if you want to ensure you are properly nourishing yourself. And finally, the latter part of your plate, which is going to be the minute part of your plate, is going to be filled with a complex carbs. That is the complex carbohydrate. What are the complex carbohydrates? I have mentioned them earlier. Yes, complex carbohydrates are those foods, are those carbohydrates, those sources of carbohydrates that have low glycemic index. That is, they do not have the probability of spiking your blood glucose level. So you must prioritize them. And that is that about how you can properly nourish yourself. What about hydration? For me, I would say during sahur, you should not take more than 2 sachets of water. But if you can consume more than 2 sachets of water without having to visit the restroom frequently, you can take more than that. And during iftar, you can take up to 4. Just make sure you split it. After you break your fast, before tarawih, after tarawih, and before you go back to bed, make sure you split it and then you consume as much as 4 sachets of water before going to bed, so as to ensure you are properly hydrated in the month of Ramadan and you stay hydrated during the fasting hour. You do not get yourself parched or dehydrated during fasting hour, as this can also affect the flow of energy and result in hypoglycemia if you are not properly hydrated. And number 4 tip is for you to ensure that as a diabetic who is fasting, you are not engaging in rigorous activities. If you are the type whose occupation requires you to expel more energy, you might want to turn it out a bit, because diabetes has to do with energy expenditure, energy in the body in general. So when we're talking about you refraining from rigorous activities, I am saying even if you are the type whose occupation do not require you expelling a lot of energy, if you are the type who goes to the gym, you might want to tone down your rigorous exercises down a bit. If you do 100 push-ups in a day, for instance, you must have to tone them down to at least 10 or 15, so as to ensure that you do not have energy crisis during the course of your fasting, and then you do not want to have hypoglycemia. So rigorous activities and diabetes and Ramadan fasting are not friends. You should tone them down so as to ensure that you maintain your energy during the fasting hours. And finally, recognize your alert symptoms. When you have headache, when you feel dizzy, you have malaise, you have weakness, you have energy crashes, you should know that it is time for you to break your fast. Like I mentioned earlier, according to the holy prophets, the sick are one of those who have been exempted from fasting. So it is not compulsory for you to fast. But I have just given the steps and procedure to help with those who have been diagnosed as early as around their 20s, their 30s with diabetes, and they still want to fast. Imagine you having to pay Koda or you have to do fidya just because you have been diagnosed with this disease, when there are ways you can actually fast while still managing this disease condition. That is why I have shared this tip. So whenever you see your alert symptoms, you see any of these alert symptoms, you should break your fast. You break your fast immediately and you hydrate yourself. And also, there are certain foods you must stay away from as a diabetic in the month of Ramadan. I know the Holy Prophet ﷺ has enjoined us to break our fast with dates and water, but I would advise you as a diabetic, dates, even though it is a natural source of sugar, it is a fruit, you should note that it has the probability, it has a high glycemic load. Yes, it can spike your blood sugar if consumed without caution. So I would say you break your fast with little water and not more than 2 dates. Yes, as a diabetic, do not take more than 2 days if you want to break your fast, so as to ensure that you do not load yourself with too much glucose and too much sugar. And to wrap it up, guys, ensure as a diabetic you follow all the steps and all these procedures. Remember, those steps and procedures are for compliant diabetics before now. Those who have been assured by their doctors that they have a proper control of their blood glucose level before now. So make sure you follow all the steps and procedures, and you should have a very healthy Ramadan, even with your condition. And yes, you can also make your fasting in patterns. That is, if you fast today, you can skip tomorrow and not fast. Or you fast today, you fast the day after tomorrow, you fast the day after that, and you miss a day. Let's say there are 7 days in a week. It is not compulsory for you to fast consecutively throughout the 7 days. Yeah, so you can do a day on, a day off, so as to ensure that your energy balance and the whole thing is balanced. These are ways you can prevent yourself from energy crashes and complications of diabetes in the month of Ramadan during fasting hour. I remain your girl Carrie. Thank you for staying to the end of the video. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and of course subscribe to my channel for more Nutri series. Thank you so much guys for watching. Bye!